you are wrong. And I want to get the doctor on this because I do believe she may have encountered some situation where someone offended her and the apology was very generic. Let me say that. That's another thing that I pondered on. A lot of times we give people a generic apology. Hello and welcome back to our YouTube channel. It is Tatum University. It is a love story. And as always, I'm here with my lovely co-host, my boo thing, my everything, and my one thing, the doctor, AB. And we are here giving you all more content. And we do apologize. We haven't seen y'all in about 3 weeks. Our last video was so long that we had to chop it down in series, and we gave y'all a part 2. So if you missed that, I'm gonna leave the link to our previous video in the description so you all can get updated on our latest video. Hey doctor, how you doing?
Hi.
Y'all please forgive us. Listen, it takes a good amount of your energy and your time to put content together, and I just want to share that with you all. We appreciate anyone who's doing content. Even with the content, we have to edit, we have to do other things to make sure that this content flows out extremely correct and accurate. So we thank you all for your patience. But we're back today. We got another topic. This topic today, we are going to be dealing with being apologetic. And some of y'all have been apologetically wrong about the way that you apologize. And we want to help y'all. We want to help y'all realize that there is an accurate and a complete way to apologize. And I think some of us may have been misinformed, may just not have the knowledge to understand that there are things that we need to initiate and to incorporate when we are apologizing, so our apology can be sincere and effective. So I got some things that I have wrote down here. I pose a question: when should I apologize? When something you done has caused pain to someone else. If you have offended somebody in whatever form or fashion it occurred, you need to apologize. And I know some of us too grown. Let me say that. Some of us too grown to apologize. And another thing I wrote down here is it is a good idea to apologize, even if whatever you did was unintentional or, watch this, minor. Listen, I know a lot of times, we deal with frustration, we deal with many other emotional things that sometimes, we operate out of those feelings, and we can do unintentionally do things towards somebody and we offend them, but that doesn't mean you get the right not to apologize. Even in our unintended offense, we still have to apologize. We still have to be the better person to say, you know what, I said that out of anger. I said that out of hurt. I said that, out of frustration. And we just have to admit when we apologize to somebody. But in another thing I'd like to add to this, that a lot of people, that I have seen a lot of people do, they minimize their apology, or sometimes they think that the offense is too minor to apologize. Let me say this up front. there is no apology that is too minor or too minimum that you shouldn't be able to conjure up an apology, to apologize to somebody when you are wrong. And I want to get the doctor on in on this because I do believe she may have encountered some situations where someone offended her and the apology was very generic. Let me say that. That's another thing that I pondered on. You know, a lot of times we give people generic apologies. You know, and I truly believe sometimes in our apologizing, even though you may not know how to apologize, your apology can't be effective because it's generic. What you got for us, doctor?
What do I have for you? What's the question?
The question is, have you encountered times where someone may apologize to you and it just um, that the apology just seems so generic, or you may encounter where a person feel like they may not have wanted to apologize because the offense was minor.
Did they still apologize or did they just not apologize?
Both.
Okay. So going with the second one, have I encountered someone who felt like they didn't want to apologize because they felt like the offense was not greater or big enough for them to apologize? Yes, I have experienced that. I've experienced both where they didn't apologize and then they did apologize, but the apology fell on deaf ears because it wasn't a sincere apology.
Okay.
So, because it's not sincere and it's not something that you want to do, you're only apologizing because I feel that you should apologize to me because you hurt my feelings. You're giving me a textbook apology, so it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Okay.
So, I'm not going to receive it. Someone who should have apologized and they didn't apologize definitely have experienced that, and they are experiencing absence at this time and moment because
Amen.
I've removed myself from the situation. Because if if I'm getting offended by something that you said because it was offensive, then that means that we have a relationship and I care. So you should care enough to sincerely apologize, because if I'm affected, you should be affected. If my emotions is off, you should feel that and say, hey, maybe I did or said something. Hey, what did I do or say, so that you can understand why you should apologize. But to not give a apology is quite all right. You don't have to, but you are experiencing absentee. I'm absent, no longer present, won't be there, not friends, no longer co-workers, no longer friends, no longer family. We're just not going to go
Okay.
there. Now, the first one was, run it back to me again. What was the first one? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm a little tired.
Oh,
What
the
was the
first.
first one?
Oh, this was just a pimp.
No, the first question you asked me.
Oh, have you experienced someone minimizing their offense towards you? Basically,
All
to
the
sum it up.
time. Yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
45 years I've been on this earth. Let me see. I'm going to say 45 years I've been experiencing that. I've came out the womb experiencing that.
Okay.
45 years. Definitely have experienced that. I feel like people, honestly, because of your demeanor and how you carry yourself, people feel like you're strong enough. It's always you're strong enough. You don't need a sorry. You're strong enough. What's wrong with you? Get over it. You're strong enough. So people feel like they just minimize the situation totally, and you should just get over it because you're strong enough. You're the bigger person.
Oh wow. That's a real thing. Even through my short time here, uh, it's a real thing how people can offend you, and you know, basically, when I began to ponder about this, I thought about a person, you cutting a person, and you tell the person, you still bleeding. I cut you an hour ago. What? You should still be bleeding. Yes. I'm still offended. I'm still mad. I'm still angry. I'm still keeping my distance. And one thing I have realized in the Christian community, and for those who claim to be Christian and love God, you know, we offend people, and then we are still uh, trying to uh, keep a relationship with someone we offended, but the other person is still bleeding. They are still experiencing that hurt, and a lot of times the relationship doesn't go back to normal, and you don't get to control that. There are times in all of our life where we have to understand that our offenses and the things that we do to people, that relationship may not ever be the same no more. Yes, we forgive one another and we move on, but sometimes those relationships do not go back to the time y'all first laid eyes on each other. It's just not realistic because sometimes there are certain traits and certain behaviors in people that people just don't go. It doesn't go back to normal because there are some traits that people have been traumatized by, and that experience from you reminds them of the trauma. So here's what they have to do: they have to vacate. They have to vacate the premises because that's something that reminds them of past experience trauma, and we just have to be careful with that. What are the benefits of apologizing? I wrote this down in my notes. One of the benefits of apologizing, it opens up doors to communication, which allows you to reconnect with the person you hurt, and that's one of the benefits. It allows us to, if given, if it's cordial, for us to reconnect. And reason again with each other. That's the basis what we want. Some of the benefits of just apologizing. It just allows you to reconnect with the person you offended, and it is also meant to rectify a wrong or rebuild a damaged relationship. Listen, y'all. Now let me say, not y'all. We need to realize that sometimes we damage people when we offend them because people have already experienced a level of damage in their life. And sometimes they may have not gotten over that. So, what you do, that's why we have to be so sensitive to people because what we do, we offend people and we just add more damage on to the damage that they have already accumulated. So, we just have to be careful. When apologizing, we there it gives us the opportunity to rectify the relationship, and the importance of that. you know One of the reasons I would recommend that, there's a scripture in the Bible says, if in as much as it depends upon you to live peaceful with all men. So if it's in your power, if it's in your control, if it's in your will, live at peace with people. If you know you have offended somebody unintentionally or intentionally, go make the wrong right by apologizing. But I want to give y'all these five, I guess what I would say, 5 ways not to apologize. These are 5 ways not to apologize. And our first one is an empty apology. And here's what I wrote down here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry. Listen, sometimes, watch this. And here's that's what I wrote. It's all form and no substance. It's what you say to someone when you need to apologize, but you are annoyed or frustrated that you can't muster up real feelings to put behind it. Uh, and sometimes the words we say, we simply don't mean them. A lot of times we get nagged about certain things, especially in relationships. Relationships are so difficult and so challenging. Sometimes we can apologize out of frustration. And a lot of times, our apology can just feel unsincere at that moment. So it's an empty apologize. So when you are apologizing, don't apologize out of frustration. Have you experienced that, doctor?
Someone apologizing to me out of frustration, or me apologizing out of frustration? Both.
Both.
I've have apologized out of frustration. I definitely have. I would probably say I apologized to bypass the situation. Like, I no longer wanted to hear the ranting, if that made any sense.
Okay.
Like, I sincerely, there was a situation where I sincerely apologized, but that particular person was a drowner, meaning like if you do something to them, they're going to drown you with what you did and like the sorrow of it for months to come because they like pity parties. So I continuously, sincerely apologized. And then it got to the point where I apologized just to bypass it and to shut them up. It was just like, all right, I'm sorry. Like, how many times I'm going to keep saying I'm sorry? Which led me to then distance myself from them because I no longer wanted to be around them because it was kind of like that person looked for a moment for me to be wrong to utilize it forever. I have experienced someone apologizing. I don't even know what you call it, but apologizing, but we definitely know it wasn't sincere. It was an apology that went like this, which is not an apology. I'm sorry if you felt that way.
Oh, that's a big one.
It's not what I felt that way because I wouldn't be feeling this way if it wasn't valid because you did something to help me feel this way. So to say, I'm sorry that you feel this way is not an apology at all. Don't ever use that. Let's just take that out of the equation. Ever. If you don't want to apologize, then don't apologize. But clearly be honest with the person and say, at this time, I don't feel I owe you an apology, so I'm not going to give it until I can recognize what I did. I would rather take that than you to tell me, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry you felt that way. Let me be the first to say sorry because you felt that way. Don't let you be the first. Let you be the first, the second, and the last because you're the offender. You should be saying sorry. So yes, I have experienced that.
Oh wow. One of the things that I like to pinpoint to what the doctor shared with us, um, it's so important for us when we are apologizing to leave out the word if. You offended somebody and somebody say, you know what, you said something the other day and it offended me. And then you, in response, say, I'm sorry if that offended you. Just take the word if out. Because I'm telling you, it comes across as very egotistical, however you pronounce. I don't even need to be using that word.
I think you said it right.
But anyways, yeah,
period.
I'm adding it to my vocabulary.
Period.
And it can come across very prideful and very arrogant. And I do know sometimes people, like I always like to say, sometimes people are just misinformed and ignorant. But if you know better, you got to do better. Leave out the word if.
Replace it with I.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah, don't say I'm sorry if I did something. I'm sorry that I did this to you. And when you're apologizing to someone, it's I'm sorry that I stepped on your foot. I'm sorry that I called you ratchet. I'm sorry that I said this about you to Monique, and Monique told you what I said. I'm sorry that I did this. Not I'm sorry if, because if means that you could possibly do something in the future and you're just like, I'm sorry if. So if I possibly punch you in the face, I'm just saying sorry now because it's an if. I don't know. I might not. We don't know. If. So I'm sorry if. You know what I'm saying? I do something later. And for me, I'm working on it, but I'm sarcastic. So I'll start to be like, okay, well, thank you for that sorry. And, I possibly will accept it in the near future. Possibly.
Okay.
Since you're an if, I'm a possible.
Yes, that's real life, and I'm telling you, anybody that study human behavior, I'm telling you, don't be uh, deceived. These are real life uh, situations, and
Yes.
they're so vital for us to pay attention when we are apologizing to people.
It's kind of like when you're a kid
Yeah.
and your parent is saying, "Do you know why you're on punishment?"
Mhm.
And you're like, "Yeah." And you think because you say yeah, it's just gonna go away. And they're
Yeah.
like, "Well, why?
Yeah.
What did you do?" So you recognize what you did, so you can now be sorry for what you did.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time.
Mhm.
Uh, Two, excessive apology. You know, let me give y'all an example of this. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do?
Oh
I
my
feel
God,
so
I'm so
bad about this.
sorry.
I'm gonna tell y'all, don't be over exertive and over excessive in your apology because that can rub off as unsincere too. And let me see what else I wrote around here. This tactic has the perverse effect of drawing the attention to your own feelings
Mhm.
rather than what you have done.
Mhm.
Listen, you can be listen. You can be so excessive in your apology that it takes the attention of what you did, and then you place the attention on you. Listen, apologize. Yes, there is a effective way to apologize, and there is an effective way not to apologize. And the way not to apologize, don't be excessive.
Mhm.
You ain't every time you look around the corner, you saying you sorry. Every time you bump into you sorry. No, because it can, like I say, it can get to a point where the other person they worry about your mental now. Why this girl always? Why he always saying sorry to me? That happened 5 years ago.
So let me okay, brief example. So we were out somewhere and a young lady came up and she thought that she knew him or whatever the case was, right? And she was explaining like, do I know you? And she just kept saying sorry, 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 but she kept looking at me. So I was like, it's okay, it's all right, like it's okay. Like people do that all the time. They'll walk up to him and say, first of all, everybody knows him. Let's just get this clear. Everybody knows him. I met people 5 times and I still don't know who they are because I'm trying to figure who they are because I've met 1,000 people after meeting them in just 1 hour. But everyone does that, and everyone's like, "Oh, are you a preacher? Are you a minister? Whatever." Everyone does that, right? So she's looking at me, and she's like, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." And at this point, I'm like, "Okay, well, are you apologizing because you had different intentions and you feel like you got caught in your intentions or something? Like why do you keep apologizing? Like why? Like what like what's going on here?" So now it starts to make the person think like, "Well, what's up? What's going on? Like why you keep apologizing? Like what else did you say? What else did you do? Like what's going on? Like okay, you're talking to my husband but you're apologizing to me. So did you have some type of like attraction or something? Like what's going on? Like what's up?" Because you're overly, I'm sorry, 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 I'm sorry. It's like, all right, you're sorry. I get it. And if you're genuine, it only takes one. It doesn't take 1,000 sorries. It really only takes one I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to. What else I got wrote down here? And sometimes when you are just obsessively apologizing, it can just feel over the top. It don't take all of that. Just a plain, sincere apology works. You don't have to be apologizing for the same thing. in the same sentence for the same situation. It don't take all that. Just
Mm-hmm.
apologize and move on, or create a good vibe. Because if you leave with a bad vibe, then we begin to question your mental and your intent.
Hmm.
And sometimes now we got to pick the stoplights up. That's enough. But I'm telling y'all, we just experienced this. So I'm telling y'all, these are real life scenarios that we encounter on a daily day basis. And y'all have to be attentive enough to know uh, when people coming with garbage, people coming with uh, manipulation and deceptiveness. Be careful. 3, the incomplete apology. This one get a lot of people in trouble. Let me give an example. This is what people say. Say, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that this happened. And then um, that's a generic. That's what I like to call a generic. I'm sorry that that happened, or I'm sorry that happened to you, or I'm sorry you feel like that, or I'm sorry if I did that. Listen, that's incomplete. See, because when you offend somebody, here's what you got to do. You got to take full responsibility and not partial. I said full responsibility and not partial.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in our apologizing, we don't accept complete and full responsibility. And when you don't take full responsibility, guess what happened? You give off a partial responsibility, like somebody else, like it was like they fault. That's why you got to apologize to them, because it was their fault. They got to take some blame in this. And ultimately, you can wind up in the blame game. And we know about the blame game. Nobody wins that, because we just too busy blaming each other.
Back and forth.
Have you encountered that? Somebody just gave you a partial. That's a
You was
partial
standing
apology.
right there when I encountered it, so you know I encountered it. You was standing right there in that parking lot of that church. You was right there. You was right there. Was you not there? Was you there?
Yeah, I was there.
You was there. Okay. Definitely experienced that. And it baffled me because they are just too doggone old, mature. Let me be nice. They are too doggone mature to not know how to effectively apologize.
Yeah.
Ain't you been called to the ministry? You should definitely know how to apologize and forgive. Definitely. You should definitely know. Mm-hmm.
And I do believe this. In the body of Christ, we need to deprogram the reprogram. Yes, the Bible is good all by itself. But we live in an era now where people have so much mental trauma, so much hurt, so much pain to their story, that we got to know how to deal with people, meet people in their humanity. Yes, it's good to meet people with God, but first we need to learn how to meet people in their humanity. And I think that's where we get in trouble at. And in my own opinion, I believe that the church has become somewhat like robots. Like we don't sympathize with, Bible teaches that Jesus sympathized with our weaknesses and our struggles. How, now we claim that we know Jesus. Why we can't sympathize with people? Why we can't understand that there's a level of commitment that we should have towards people that we offended, to rectify, that relationship that may have been damaged. And another one of my bullet points was to express regret. When you are taking full responsibility, I want to say there is a hierarchy, if I can use that word, a hierarchy. And what I'm trying to say is that you take full responsibility and then you express regret. And then the last step is ask for forgiveness from the person. You know, and I'm telling you, if you miss out on one of these 3 steps, your apology is not going to be effective. Your apology going to come off generic. Your apology going to come off insincere, and your apology going to come off very offensive. So it's so important for us to be effective in our apology. Take full responsibility, express regret, and ask for forgiveness and move on. You miss out on one of them, it's going to be going backwards. You're going to be going backwards.